Iran has just sabotaged the peace agreement, forcing Trump to make an urgent decision. After Washington suspended the maritime blockade against Iranian ports as part of the provisional agreement between the United States and Iran, Tehran began to impose new conditions for the passage of ships. They demanded authorization 48 hours in advance and signaled direct control over one of the most important oil routes in the world. What was supposed to be the beginning of an opening turned into yet another pressure tactic. The Revolutionary Guard entered the center of the crisis. Reports pointed to threats against vessels, and the Iranian Authority of the Strait began to say that no ship should sail without valid permission. Meanwhile, the negotiations that were supposed to move forward in Switzerland were postponed. Lebanon was bombed again by Israel after new attacks from Hezbollah. And the White House is trying to prevent the agreement from becoming a free concession to a regime that uses every loophole to buy time. Trump relied on force, blockade, economic pressure, and the promise to prevent an Iranian nuclear bomb. Iran responded by trying to block the Strait of Hormuz at the most delicate moment. What is Tehran trying to achieve now? Why has the Strait of Hormuz become a weapon against Trump? How will the United States react without letting the agreement die in the hands of the Ayatollahs? I'll tell you all about it in a moment. If you like this kind of straightforward and no-nonsense content, consider subscribing because we have videos like this every day. The crisis began to escalate after the United States Central Command announced on June 18 the suspension of the blockade on maritime traffic entering and leaving Iranian ports. The measure was part of the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Washington and Tehran to end the war and open a 60-day negotiation window. In practice, the United States stepped back from directly enforcing the blockade, but kept military ships in the region to monitor whether the agreement would be upheld. That was Trump's bet, to allow passage, test the Iranian commitment, and maintain enough pressure to prevent a new nuclear race. The problem appeared quickly. On June 19, Iran began treating the Strait of Hormuz as an area subject to political and military authorization. The new authority of the Persian Gulf Strait announced that vessels would need to submit transit requests at least 48 hours in advance. It also said that during the negotiation window, it would stop charging fees for security, environmental services, and insurance related to the crossing. It may seem like a concession, but the real message is different. Tehran wants to control who passes, when they pass, and which route they take. For the maritime market, this immediately raised an alert. Because Hormuz is an international passage, not a private gate controlled by the Iranian regime. The move also revealed a dangerous division within Iran itself. While diplomatic sectors try to sell the idea that the route remains open, the Revolutionary Guard and agencies linked to the regime treat the crossing as a tool of pressure. Reports of orders for vessels to return, requirements for authorization, and coordination with Iranian forces have increased the risk of a practical shutdown even without a single announcement and, of course, without a total closure. It's this double game that makes the crisis more serious. Trump is now dealing with the most fragile point of the agreement. The opening of Hormuz was the main piece to ease the market. On June 18, there were 25 commercial crossings through the strait, the highest daily number since April. Even so, the normal flow before the war was much higher. This means the agreement started on life support. The tension in Lebanon stalled the next stage. The talks between the United States and Iran, which were scheduled to begin in Switzerland, were cancelled after a new escalation between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah attacked Israeli forces in southern Lebanon. Israel responded with a wave of attacks against the group's targets in southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. And the scenario that was supposed to help the negotiations has become more of an obstacle. Iran began to demand an end to Israeli operations in Lebanon as a political condition to move forward. That's where Tehran uses Hezbollah as a pressure tool and the Strait of Hormuz as economic leverage. According to American officials, Israel accepted a new attempt at a ceasefire with Hezbollah, mediated by the United States and Qatar. But the situation remained unstable. Even after the scheduled time for the truce, there were still reports of attacks and military response. The Israeli military spokesperson made it clear that Israeli forces would remain in southern Lebanon and would continue operating against threats. This angered Tehran, strengthened the Iranian narrative of agreement violation, and gave the regime yet another excuse to stall the negotiations. For Trump, the risk is simple. If Israel doesn't hold the Lebanese front and if Iran uses this to freeze the Hormuz, the agreement becomes hostage to two fronts at the same time. The vice president stated that no money would be released to Iran just for signing a piece of paper. According to him, any economic relief would depend on verified steps, such as the elimination of enriched nuclear material and the acceptance of an inspection regime. Vance also said that the United States expects the Strait of Hormuz to remain open without tolls in the long term. The statement was important because it targets the heart of the crisis. Iran wants economic relief, but Trump can't allow the regime to get any breathing room before it proves real change. Trump also raised the tone. He said that Iran came to the negotiating table out of weakness, not by choice, and he wrote that Tehran will not receive money during the 60-day window. Before that, he had already stated that the main point of the agreement was to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. That's the line that sustains all the pressure. There is no acceptable agreement. If the regime gains time, gains a maritime route, gains oil sales, and keeps the path open to rebuild its nuclear program. Negotiation only works when the other side knows that force is still on the table. By demanding permits, controlling routes, and keeping the Revolutionary Guard as a shadow over the ships, Tehran creates a situation where it can tell the world that the strait is open, while in practice it scares those who depend on it. This is political sabotage. It doesn't break the agreement outright, but it bleeds its credibility. That's why the American response needs to be swift. Delay in this case becomes visible weakness. The White House is trying to maintain two messages at the same time. To the world, it says that there is still a path for technical negotiation. To Iran, it warns that the economic pressure is not over. To Israel, Trump asked for calm and tried to push for a truce in Lebanon. The problem is that the Iranian regime lives precisely off these loopholes. When fighting escalates in Lebanon, Tehran gains justification. When Hormuz becomes unstable, Tehran gains bargaining chips. When talks are delayed, Tehran gains time. The postponement of negotiations in Switzerland became a warning sign because it shows that the agreement is still not solid. The 60-day window can become a trap if Iran uses this period to reorganize its influence, sell oil with less pressure, and push the nuclear debate until later. Vance tried to respond to this by saying there will be no money without verification. Trump tried to respond by saying that Iran is weakened. But the real proof won't be in the words. It will be in the strait remaining open, in the ships passing through, in the mines being removed, and in the regime without the power to blackmail the world economy. Lebanon remains another flashpoint. Hezbollah is not an isolated player in this game. The group serves as a regional pressure tool tied to the Iranian axis. When it attacks Israel, it creates an opening for the Israeli response. When Israel responds, Iran uses the conflict to stall negotiations. If it hesitates, Tehran will test even more. Today, the regime requires prior notice. Tomorrow, it might demand a fee. Later, it could choose which ships are allowed to pass. And when a dictatorship realizes it controls a vital route without paying a price, it turns blackmail into permanent policy. I'm Milson Alves, Global, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Like this video, subscribe, and check the comments at the end to connect more with the Milson Alves community.